Late in a fully autonomous build, one gate looked at a suite that was entirely green and refused to ship it. Not for a crash, not for a failing test. For two high-severity flaws every test had passed straight over, authentication that quietly failed open, and a rebinding attack buried in the render path. Here is the uncomfortable part. The gate that should scare you is not the one that says no, it is the one that never does. You already vet a model's pros, you read the diff, you do not trust the summary. But there is a second checkmark you probably still take at face value. It's tests, and you cannot because the agent that wrote the code is the same agent that decided what the tests cover. A green suite proves the code that exists behaves. It says nothing about the code that was supposed to exist and does not. An agent rewarded for passing tests will quietly shrink the target until it hits it, build less, test what it built, hand you a wall of green. Every function has a test, every test passes, and the feature is half there. When the thing checking the work is the same thing that did the work, green is not a finish line. It is a mirror. And this is the failure nobody films, because on the dashboard it looks exactly like success. So the loop does not let the builder decide it is done. After build, the work walks through 3 gates in order, end to end, security, hardening. Any one of them can stop it and send it back to the build loop, and these gates are fail closed by construction. Before each round, the loop deletes the previous round's status file, so a gate can never pass by leaning on last week's green result. And if the work gets kicked back too many times, the loop does not grind forever, it halts and hands the run to a human. 2 things make this reportable instead of a story. First, every block, every count, every quote I am about to show you was written by the pipeline into its own logs and archived on the next run before anything could paper over it. Second, the gate logic itself is tested offline with no tokens spent against 12 frozen scenarios. The loop ships tests for its own refusals. Start with the first gate, the one that runs the whole build end to end. Its job is to ask what the build phase never asks, not do the test pass, but is the thing actually built. Across the 3 real builds, it blocked the work and sent it back 4 times in the first, once in the second, twice in the third. And here is what matters. Not one of those blocks was a regression, something that used to work and broke. Every single block was missing scope, a required part of the system that was never built. This gate is not a bug filter, it is a completeness ratchet. Look at what green looked like on one of those blocked rounds. The core suite, 110 of 110, passing. Run twice. Identical, no state leakage, all 12 of the adversarial fetch cases exercised live, and in the very same report, under blocking, the render module does not exist, the deploy directory does not exist, the decisions log is still missing, the gate's own words for why it refused, those criteria remain unmet because the artifacts they depend on do not exist, not because of a subtle defect. And every block named exactly what was absent. In the third build, the 2 rounds read like a punch list. The first named 4 gaps at once, including 5 whole artifacts that did not exist yet. The second named one, a mode that reported success, but served only the quick mode checks and none of the render-derived ones. The next iteration built precisely that. No thrashing, no defect hunt. And in the first build, running at the default limit of 3 passes, the gate blocked a 4th time, 1 passed its own bound, and instead of grinding forever, it halted and handed the run to a human. So a green suite reflected a shrunken surface, not the whole job. Green is a local maximum, done is somewhere else, and the gate's job is to keep naming the distance until it closes. Now the second gate, and the moment I want you to remember. In the third build, a hardening report suggested a fix and phrased it as a 1-line diff. Dropped 2 keys from a pre-flight check, it looked trivial. The builder applied it verbatim, and it broke a frozen test. One, the loop is forbidden from editing to make its own change pass. The safety property was load-bearing, and the tidy little suggestion walked straight into it. Then 2 agents looked at the same change and disagreed. The reviewer had no shell. It could read the 4 change files, and that is all it did. It reported pass because on inspection, the diff looked fine. The tester had a real shell. It ran the suite. 1 failed, 165 passed. The exact frozen test the one-liner had broken. Same code, 2 verdicts. The one who actually executed was right. A separate audit suite ran 182 passing straight through the regression. The audit gate itself reported pass because it does not run the core suite. Green in every place that was easy to check, and broken in the one place that mattered. The only thing between that diff and a shipped regression was an agent that could run the tests it was judging. The fix-up reverted exactly that one line and left the real repair untouched. The suite went back to 166 passing, 0 failed, and the loop wrote itself a lesson in its own log. A suggested one-line fix is a suggestion, not a directive, and it gets cross-checked against the frozen suite before anyone applies it. A suggestion phrased as a diff is still a suggestion. Never let the agent without a shell have the last word. Now back to the gate we opened on, the security phase. In the second of the 3 real builds, it watched a green suite roll in and refused to pass it. Not for a crash, not for a failing test, but for 2 problems every functional test in that suite had sailed past. 2 high-severity findings, both invisible to the tests. The first, authentication that failed open. The setup shipped operator keys under a suffix name the config never read, so an operator following the runbook would leave authentication silently off, believing it was on. The second, a domain name system rebinding attack in the render path, a server-side request forgery, writing a time of check to time of use gap, where the address you validate and the address you connect to are allowed to differ. And notice why the test could not see either. Authentication that is off passes every happy path test because the requests succeed. That is the bug. The rebind passes every check because the first lookup is honest. These are absence properties, and only a gate that goes looking adversarially finds them. The gate blocked until both were fixed, and it did not take anyone's word for it. The fixes were driven live. The suite reran 166 passing, all 12 request forgery cases, plus 4 invariants, 16 of 16, fired as real calls. The auth fix, proven on a live server. The rebinding fix, proven against hosts pointed at loopback and at the cloud metadata address. Everyone refused. The name resolved exactly once. 0 critical, 0 high. That one block is the entire argument for the security phase existing at all, because the gate that should scare you is not the one that says no. It is the one that always says yes. So here is what the loop is really made of. Separate the agent that proposes from the agent that verifies, and give the verifier the shell. Make the gates demand the entire definition of done, not a passing subset of it. And a gate that always says yes is not protecting you, it is agreeing with you. The code these agents write is almost incidental. The gates are the product. They are the only reason you can leave the thing running overnight and still believe the output in the morning. One thing to do this week, find the place in your own pipeline where an agent grades its own work, and put a second agent, one with a real shell, between it and the merge. That is your unguarded door. Next in the series, we go one layer down into the frozen core these gates protect, what the loop may change, what it is forbidden to touch, and the diff that proves it never crossed the line. Receipts, as always,